a minor disclaimer for this podcast episode. It is going to be slightly triggering, and I am posing the question, what would you do if it was your son? What would you do if the man in the wig says, hey, I'll watch your kid while you go out and whatever. And he says, come upstairs with me, and he decides he doesn't want to wear this wig in this moment. What would you do if it was your son? So in today's episode, it's going to be very triggering. It's coming full circle. I am tying in the Shanquilla Robertson, and the previous podcast episodes about is being gay a convenience. This subject has always been very touchy for me to just kind of touch on. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I hope you find it insightful. And as always, peace. And in today's episode, we're just going to be, let me clear my throat, honey. We're just going to be talking about life and how we've really stepped into a space where there is, and I mean, there is no freedom of speech. And I thought about how when it comes to gay people, because this is something that's really been festering in my spirit, I've been so back and forth with the previous episodes. I've been so mindful not to offend anyone because it's not a hate speech. I don't have anything against gay people, but I was validated for the first time today, and it felt so good because I think the people who just want a sense of understanding about what all this is about are shunned, and we're made to feel as though we are, anti-gay. We're made to feel as though we are biased when we just have our own feelings. And it's interesting because I really feel like when it comes to this particular community, there is no sense of understanding. There's no sense of fluidity. This is the community that has really done its best efforts to implement polyamory. There's no stability here. We're advocating for, gay marriage and gay children, and not children, adoption and things like that. And there really is no stability, right? There's no stability for the kids to grow up and be healthy and sane. Every gay person I know, let me tell you something, because this is what nobody wants to talk about. Every gay person I know ends up being with an opposite sex later on down the line. And they want to have kids, they want to settle down, they want to come out of this phase. And I don't think that enough people talk about the psychological, the emotional, and the traumatic experiences that result in the choice of choosing a same-sex partner, because it's not normal. And this is the thing. Nobody is saying that there should be punishments. Nobody is saying that we should harm them. But let me just tell you what I know. It's not normal. And this is the thing. That's okay. It's okay. If it's not normal for you, that's okay. Why do you have to try to make it normal? And I think my biggest thing is how we'll go so far to the extent to defend gay people who are just grown adults who may have some type of mental or emotional or physical or whatever, or just merely decide to be gay. We go so far to defend grown people who have made a choice that this is how they want to live their lives. And we go so far as to advocating for their rights when there are people, women, there are so many other causes that I think that we could just be supporting. I think that my biggest frustration with, or maybe my lack of understanding, and I'm going to say frustration because I don't understand it and I want to understand it, and anytime I ask a gay person, hey, what do these pronouns mean? What does that mean? What does it mean if you're this? What is the next letter on the LGB? What does it mean? No one can ever give me an understanding about what it means. And it frustrates me because we go so hard for grown adults who just make the choice to be with someone else. And that is okay. We don't care. That's my thing. I feel like if you feel me, you feel me. Listen, I don't care. I literally do not care that you choose to date someone else that is the same sex. I don't care. Nobody cares. But why is it that we have to, I think that this is the truth. This is the truth, that whenever, I always say this, whenever you find yourself defending something so strongly, and not to the, like if you're constantly being offended, if you're constantly feeling the need to just defend something, 9 times out of 10, it's probably because you don't really feel secure within yourself. And I think my biggest thing with the gay community is that it literally gives them a right to cultural appropriation. I believe that when it comes to being gay, Black gay males, it's almost like there's this emulation of a Black woman. And then the opposite side of that, seeing Black women advocate for, gay rights and things like that. I get it, but some of the most the real, honest, truthful gay people that I know, they're not a part of all of this. They're not a part of all of this, let's do this. We need to have rights. We need to have babies. We need to have this. We need to do. They're just hey, I'm gay and I'm gonna live my life. And, I respect that because that's an adult making the decision. But everyone else out here definitely seems to be very much misled and nobody wants to talk about it. And if you do talk about it, you have to be so mindful of the verbiage. You have to be so mindful of the context. You have to be so mindful of so many different things because this community is so unstable that if you say anything that does not fall in line with hugs and kisses, it's a problem. And I think that's just the sad truth. So much of this is rooted in childhood trauma. So much of this is rooted in rape, molestation, hypersexuality, perversion. So much. I remember growing up, I had a gay uncle, God rest his soul. I remember I was very scared of him. Seeing him as a man talking like a girl with the nails on scared me. I was very frightened oftentimes. And, people say gay people, I am not here for anyone blatantly just coming out and being super rude, super nasty, super unkind to gay people. I'm not here for that at all because I don't believe in that with anybody, regardless of what you think and feel. If you don't agree with something, if you don't like someone, regardless, white, Black, whatever, I'm never here for making anyone feel uncomfortable. So let me just get that clear. I've never been I don't really care what you believe or whatever. If you don't gel with someone, you don't gel with them, but you don't treat people unkindly. So that's just, let me just say that for y'all, but I don't understand it. But so I remember being very uncomfortable, seeing him with nails and him being super feminine. And, I seen a TikTok video and there were these little kids, very little kids, and they seen a man sitting on a couch with a wig and they were scared. And I think for me, this kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I think about the dangers of little kids in these situations. I think about how that opens the door for perversion, how that opens the door for rape and molestation. I remember I was in the locker room and a guy came in and he left as a woman, and I was very afraid in that moment because regardless of what anyone says, you're not a woman and you don't have the strength of the woman. You don't have a vulnerability of a woman. And I think what makes me really sad is how women are left unprotected. I posted a very emotional video, a very emotional podcast talking about Shanquella Robinson. And, it was really heartbreaking to see. It was just it completely tore me, I couldn't even replay that podcast episode. But, this is what happens when we advocate for things that are misleading. This is what happens when we advocate for things and we don't really understand the context or the mass agenda of this movement. And from what I've seen, I don't really see any Black gay person benefiting from the normalization or the advocacy of the LG community. I don't see anyone. I don't see Black people in that. I see Black people oftentimes on the HIV ads. I see Black people oftentimes, coming in with advertising when it's convenient, but I don't really see them really reaping the millions and hundreds and thousands of dollars and the advocacy and the rights of that community. And it just seems as though men choose to be gay for a sake of convenience. And, I was thinking to myself, and, I think I consider the hate crimes, I consider those things. And I'm like, you know what, it's not convenient. And it's not one of those things where it's if you truly want to be that way, like, it may not be easy for you. It's not something that's normal, right? It's not a common thing. It's very different, right? But then we look at the opposite side of it, and we consider the fact that, when it comes to homosexuality, there are a lot of perks, there are a lot of benefits. As a Black gay male, as a gay male, period, you have the luxury of not really carrying the burden of a man. You have the luxury of kind of like benefiting from being a woman, but not actually having to be a woman. Like, gay guys get the benefit of like being sassy and being super promiscuous and being super flirtatious and being super rude and nasty and all of those different things that women try to avoid, especially in workplaces when we're trying to be assertive, especially in spaces where we're trying to, show up, have a voice. You guys get to reap those benefits that we don't get, and so, to see so many people going so hard for the community, it's very hurtful, because it's like you have real women out here who are fighting for rights. You have real women out here who are still, overcoming oppression. Certain groups of people, you still have people out here who are working to, come into workplaces where it's comfortable and, she's not looked at as the angry Black woman. And like, you come in as a gay guy and you just get to be everything that she's not afforded the right to be, and she is the woman, and so it definitely scares me 100%, because what happens when you wake up and you decide you want to be something different? Like I said, people say like, oh, it's just my personal experience, but no, that's not true. I've seen it several times over. And I think one of the things that my biggest thing is just like the people who choose to be gay. I think about Ellen. I think like on a larger scale, I think about people that I know who are genuinely gay, and that's the path they chose to take. They're not out here, like I don't know. I think it's something about a person's like authenticity that you can feel, and I think that so many people are gay today, not because that's their truth, but because it's like, oh, I get to be gay, I get to be sassy, I get to be all these different things, I get to dress up like a girl, and I can play in the makeup and this and that, but I don't have to worry about, safety and protection, and not having the physical capacity to really defend myself. I don't have to worry about, the stereotypes at work and things like that. I mean, yes, I'm gay, but now there are rights to protect me, so I think to an extent there is some level of convenience for gay people that there's not for other people. But, I think overall, I really want to just get an understanding about like what it is. People say you're born that way, but like I said, I seen TikTok video. There were two kids who were looking at this guy, and he had on a wig. He was sitting on the couch. He had a beard, and the kids were like, "Oh, you gay?" And you're not born that way. No one is born that way. You may have had some experiences that have, kind of warped your reality and warped your perspective, but like that's not everyone's truth. And I don't know. I'm just very concerned about the future of humanity, and I'm concerned about, the safety of so many of our kids. And I think a lot of people are, and I think it's unfortunate how, those are real concerns, and it's kind of being set aside for this agenda that nobody really understands. It's just merely a choice. And I think if it's your choice and it's your truth, then live out your truth. Live out your truth, and let it be that. But I think, to look at the thick of it all and to, be so defensive. I mean, every person who I've seen, not all the time, but a good majority of the time, the people that I see who identify in this space are very angry, and within a second they're willing to rip your head off. I've seen men, really like gay men, sit and beat down a Black girl, and it's been horrific. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that imminent danger that comes with this. You know what I mean? See, it's like you get the convenience of like being a girl and playing in the makeup and doing the wigs and the weaves, but then you also have this convenience of defending yourself. In the moment that a girl says something that you don't like, or she doesn't accept you, or whatever the case may be, whether it be a friendship fallout, God rest her and kill her soul, it's like, oh, now you really finna see that I am a man, And it's almost like the aggression that comes out seems like it's pent up aggression that is oftentimes geared straight towards a woman, which makes me think about psychologically, did something happen between you and your mother? Is that the root cause of so much homosexuality? Like, is it the relationship between the son and the mother? Like, what is it? But I just think that that's the mass thing. And I think people have to recognize that, like, it's a choice and it's not normal. That's not, nobody like wakes up and like, yeah, I'm going to be with a girl or I'm going to be with a man. Like, that's not normal. And I think it's just very unfortunate that we don't ever talk about the psychological deficits. We don't talk about perversion enough. We don't talk about rape. We don't talk about molestation in boys. We don't talk about those things. It's a lot of things we don't talk about. And it can happen both ways, women, men, the whole nine. And so I think that's the part that I wish to understand. And I think because there's so much liberation, I mean, you can sleep with whoever, you don't have the reputable consequences. You can, live your life and do all these different things, and there's no real construct there. And I think that's what people are seeking, is some sense of like freedom, but it seems as though it's like you just get so far and you're just kind of like, I don't know. But yeah, it's very unfortunate. I just want to understand it. I've met some men who are gay and they're acting like a woman, but I feel like deep down, like, discerning this man, like, he doesn't seem like he's a gay man. Like, he seems like he's just choosing this life out of convenience. It's convenient for Black men to, emasculate themselves into certain situations to gain and garner adoration and employment and, certain opportunities. It's convenient. For women, I think sometimes it's convenient to just be strong rather than like vulnerable, in a sense of, you may not want to feel that vulnerability that women feel on a day-to-day basis, and it's just very unfortunate. And I just want to get an understanding. And I know I'm not reaching, and like I said, I can't reiterate this enough. I don't really have any bad thing to say. I just want to get an understanding. I think we all just kind of want to get an understanding. I've asked a gay person, hey, what does this mean? What does that mean? And they can't tell me. And so you can only help but to wonder, is this a type of mass agenda? If the people who are in the community don't even understand what is going on, and so it's just, I don't know, it's just very unfortunate. And I think that it just further induces the vulnerabilities in women, and I don't know, it's very sad. It's very saddening. It really is, because I remember there was a time where, hey, if that was the life you chose to live, that was the life you chose to live, and that was the end of it. I've never been here for, walking down the street and calling a person's a name or anything like that. But, in terms of a man, I mean, it's like, it's a man, physically you're wired to like protect yourself. I'm not saying that you should be, disrespected and disregarded and spit on and spat at because of your preference, to how you want to live your life. No, I think you absolutely should be left alone, 100%. But I also realize that men are capable of protecting themselves, just in the cases that we've seen. I mean, if you Google, don't Google it, but, just thinking about like gay men and how I've seen so many videos, so many occasions where they've literally beat the blights out of a woman. And it's just like, it's very clear that they have the ability to protect themselves. I mean, they're a man. And they will do that when it's convenient for them. But, when they may experience certain things, it's like, then it's, so I don't know, it's a very interesting thing. And I just, for myself, I love seeing strong men. I miss it so much. And it's very unfortunate that it's become such a rarity that young girls may never experience, that they may never experience, that young men may never even know what it's like to experience a real man. I think so many people today are holding out for this internet perfection. And I think contrary to that, I think you have two people who come into relationships and they say, hey, look, you don't want to lose me, and then it's vice versa. And so I think that just kind of sets us up for destruction, It's completely different. I'm grateful that I was able to have experiences in my life where I met real men and I was able to be a lady and I was treated like a lady, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the era in which men were men and they enjoyed being men, and you enjoyed them being a man, and they were comfortable with that. I'm deeply saddened by the emasculation of men. I'm deeply saddened by the forced homosexuality in every community. I'm deeply saddened by the prevalence of perversion and the normalization of perversion. Those things, it's very destructive, and I don't think that we sit with that and realize that enough, and we don't really want to talk about what it really is, and I think it takes spiritual gifting to really be able to discern what is happening, and it's not okay. I think that men really were wired to be something great. They were warriors. They were, all of these beautiful things, and this whole thing with trying to make them be something else is just, I don't know, it's pretty debilitating, to be honest. And I think that the continuation of just the lack of resources in regards to certain minority groups has been awful. The rites of passage, it's been awful. It's been really sad, and I hate to see so many brothers doing so many different things that are unjust, that are immoral, to just maintain like a sense of self, But historically, minority groups have literally been deprived of education. And when I say minority, I'm talking about Black. Because one of the things I've also noticed is how everyone wants to be a POC. And I won't take away from the other things that have happened in other countries. And, I think that would just be a very ignorant statement to make. But I've just kind of noticed how, maybe to some extent Black people have started to garner some level of remorse, I guess you could say, for their oppression. And I think that other groups have wanted that same level of remorse, or maybe like someone to say, hey, I see you, I don't know, it's interesting. I was listening to Tole, and he talked about ego and superiority, and how we identify with things because we want to feel superior, and how we identify with things because we want to feel like we matter, and I think about how like maybe like 85 to like 95, I'm saying like 95 reality, or maybe 90, no, it's definitely like 95% of people are unaware. They are unaware of like why they do what they do. And, we hear the mass movements in regards to like self-improvement and healing and things like that, but it just all seems to be external anyway. Everything really goes back to externals, especially when it comes to social media, especially when you decide to do something because you've seen it on social media, right? Like it's all external, and it's not really fueled by your internal intuition and God's guidance for your life. And so I thought about that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think when it comes to this community in particular, that's 100%. I think in any situation where we can be the victim, someone else has to be the villain. And if they're the villain, then we are morally superior. We are better. We are deserving of kindness, empathy, sympathy. And I think because of the psychological causes and because of the things that go unspoken, I think that so much of what this community does and says and advocates for is to say, hey, see me, see this child who just did not receive those things, and I think the reality is that you'll never really know the entire story of a person's life, regardless of what people get online and say, that did not happen to me. People are in denial. How many men are in denial about the things that have happened to them? Because it's not normal and it's not something that's talked about. You only hear about girls getting raped. You only hear about girls being molested. If a man was to come out and say, this happened to me, I think he would feel mortified. I think he would feel humiliated. But actually, hold up, wait a minute. Common's memoir was very touching. He actually talked about that. And so did, I just drew a blank. It's called Green Light. Green Lights, I can't think of his name. Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, he talked about his experience with how he was raped. Yeah, and I think that is noble, and I think it's unfortunate that those are the conversations that aren't had. And but I think even still, do you see how that was a choice? You see, I think too, in these situations, sometimes it depends on how long the molestation goes on. And again, this is me just trying to find understanding and reasoning, but I also know the prevalence, right? So I don't know, you guys. I think live your life, and do what you're going to do. But I think we have to look at the root causes of this aggression and this need to defend and protect and to coddle. And, we have to really take a step back and really realize, this forcing of acceptance on people and their beliefs, and this mass division, and how children are just so confused, and how we're just forcing them to eat this and to normalize this. It's debilitating and it's heartbreaking. I was working and I heard my kids say, what gender are you? And it's like, wow, because every other day you guys are putting another gender, and when you ask people, what does this stuff mean? Nobody knows. So it's just, it's really heartbreaking. It really is. And I wish that, I don't know, I wish there was more truth. I wish there was more authenticity. I wish, more people had the pleasure of knowing who they were. Because one thing I know for sure, look at me sound like Oprah. One thing I know for sure is that if you don't know who you are, the world will tell you who you are. And I think the world has done a very good job at telling many people who they are. Peace.